I think for what we Europeans have been doing in the last 3,000 years around the world, we should be apologizing for the next 3,000 years before starting to give moral lessons. Hundreds of thousands of workers from developing countries come here, they earn 10 times more than what they earn in their home country. We in Europe, we close our borders and we don't allow practically any worker from these countries.
There is a famous African proverb, until the lion learns how to write, every story will glorify the hunter. This proverb goes perfect in line with the FIFA World Cup 2022 happening in Qatar. The English media is trying its best to villainize and even vandalize the biggest sporting event of the world. As soon as Qatar announced to hold its values and not allow the activities that are not modest, the classical hypocrisy of the Western media showed up. Besides mainstream electronic media and print, social media faced a flood of opinions undermining the Eastern culture, values and traditions. Some of the tweets that you can clearly see send out a message full of hatred against another civilization. Even the Islamophobia is evident in many social media posts and mainstream media shows. For a layman, it is difficult to understand this reaction of the West in a perspective that is rarely discussed. The West has hegemonized the world since 1970s. It has projected its so-called liberal values across all the domains of life, including sports. Football has remained an important sport of Europe and Latin America. Since the dawn of FIFA history, all the World Cups have been organized in either Europe or Latin America, including two. One that took place in South Africa in 2010 and the other in Russia in 2018. It is the first time in the history that a Muslim Middle Eastern country is hosting the biggest sporting event of the globe. The country has firmly decided to not compromise on its Arab-Islamic values. Now the West feels a sense of undermining. It is afraid that the world will be exposed to another culture, another set of values, and an alternative history of the world. Those who are from the field of social sciences conceptualize it as a we versus they debate. Many countries have objected on the ban of LGBTQ plus during the event. They are parading over Qatar for violating so-called human rights embedded in the liberal values. But on the alternative side, more LGBTQ plus members have died and faced violence in the last 24 hours in the United States than the whole history of Qatar. Same goes with the ban on alcohol in the stadium. Ironically, France also doesn't allow alcohol consumption in its sporting arenas, but nobody talks about it since it is a Western country. But that's the only one side of the story. Qatar is also no angel. Since Qatar was chosen to host the World Cup, The Guardian has confirmed that over 6,500 migrant laborers from India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka have died in the preparation for this. There have been an average of 12 deaths each week involving migrant workers from these 5 South Asian nations since the night in December 2010 when the streets of Doha were packed with happy crowds celebrating Qatar's triumph according to the government figures. Information gathered from India, Bangladesh, Nepal and Sri Lanka indicates that 5,927 migrant workers lost their lives between 2011 and 2020. In addition, 824 Pakistani nationals working at the Pakistani embassy in Qatar passed away between 2010 and 2020. The real death toll is probably far higher than that since many people from other countries including Philippines and Kenya also work in Qatar. Even though death records do not classify the deaths by occupation or place of work, Nick McGeehan, director of Fair Square Projects, an advocacy group specializing in labor rights in Gulf, believes that many of the workers who have died were employed on these World Cup infrastructure projects. Many of the migrant workers who have died in Qatar since 2011 were there only because the country was chosen to host the World Cup. So who is right? Western hypocrites or Qatari elite filled with oil wealth and hunger for lavish lifestyle and show off? This is up to you to decide.